The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from another late night at the office. Being an IT specialist at a growing tech firm in Seattle meant long hours, but I didn't mind. I loved my job and, more importantly, I loved my wife, Bronwyn. We'd been married for 15 years, a testament to our unwavering commitment, or so I thought. I pulled into the driveway. The familiar sight of our craftsman house usually brought a sense of peace, but tonight an odd feeling gnawed at me. Bronwyn's car wasn't there. I shrugged it off, assuming she was at her book club or visiting her sister, Kira. Stepping inside, the house was eerily quiet. "Bronwyn," I called out, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. No response. I checked the kitchen. A note usually sat on the counter if she was out. Nothing. My unease grew with each passing moment. I walked into the living room. The scent of lavender, her favorite, usually filled the air, but tonight a different, muskier scent lingered. I dismissed it as my imagination running wild. I was tired, stressed from work, and probably just overthinking things. I decided to check my emails before making dinner. As I sat at my desk, my eyes drifted to Bronwyn's laptop on the nearby table. I knew I shouldn't, but a nagging curiosity pulled me towards it. I told myself I was just checking to see if she had left any tabs open with potential dinner recipes. A blatant lie, even to myself. I opened the laptop, and there it was, an email notification from a dating site I'd never heard of, Passionate Encounters. My heart skipped a beat. I clicked on the email, my hands trembling. The subject line read, "Rhys, Bronwyn wants to meet you." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Rhys? Who the hell was Rhys? I clicked on the email, and a wave of nausea washed over me as I read the message. It was filled with suggestive language, hinting at a rendezvous planned for that very evening. The muskier scent in the living room suddenly made sense. It was his cologne, lingering in my home, the home I shared with my wife. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Bronwyn, my Bronwyn, the woman I loved and trusted implicitly, was having an affair. The realization hit me with the force of a tidal wave, threatening to drown me in a sea of disbelief and pain. I frantically searched her inbox, finding a string of emails between her and Rhys. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting at hotels, restaurants, even our favorite hiking trails. The lies, the deceit, it was all there in black and white. My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages, each word a dagger twisting in my heart. How could she do this to me? What had I done to deserve this? I replayed the past few months in my mind, searching for clues I had missed, red flags I had ignored. There were the late nights at book club, the weekend getaways with Kira, the unexplained charges on our credit card. I had been so blind, so trusting, so utterly foolish. I slammed the laptop shut, the image of Bronwyn's smiling face on the screen mocking me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't feel anything but a burning rage and a crushing sense of betrayal. I needed to confront her, to hear her explanation, to understand why. But a part of me didn't want to know. I didn't want to hear her lies, her excuses, her justifications. I just wanted the pain to stop. I paced the living room, my mind racing, my emotions in turmoil. I considered calling Kira, but what would I say? "Hey, is my wife really with you, or is she screwing some guy named Rhys?" The thought was too humiliating to bear. I decided to wait for Bronwyn to come home. I would confront her then, face to face. I deserved an explanation, even if it shattered my world completely. The hours crawled by, each minute an eternity. The rain continued to fall, mirroring the storm raging inside me. I sat in the dark, staring out the window, watching the street, waiting for her car to appear. Finally, around 11 p.m., headlights illuminated the driveway. I stood up, my legs shaky, my heart pounding in my chest. I braced myself for the confrontation, for the pain, for the inevitable unraveling of my marriage. Bronwyn walked through the door, her face flushed, her hair slightly disheveled. She looked surprised to see me still up. "Hey honey, you're still awake. I thought you'd be asleep by now." I stared at her, my eyes filled with a mixture of anger and hurt. "Where were you, Bronwyn?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She hesitated for a moment, then forced a smile. "I told you I was at book club. We went out for drinks afterward. Don't lie to me, Bronwyn," I said, my voice rising. "I know about Rhys. I read your emails." Her face paled, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice trembling. I walked over to her laptop and opened it, showing her the email from Passionate Encounters. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. I can explain, she said, her voice barely audible. Explain what, Bronwyn? Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face for months. She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. It just happened, she sobbed. I didn't mean for it to go this far, it just happened. I repeated, my voice filled with disbelief. You met a guy on a dating site, exchanged emails, planned rendezvous, and it just happened. Is that what you're telling me? She didn't answer, her head bowed in shame. I felt a surge of anger so intense that I thought I might explode. Who is he, Bronwyn? I demanded. Who is this Rhys? She hesitated again, then whispered, He's a colleague from work, a colleague. Someone I probably knew, someone I might have even met. The thought was sickening. How long has this been going on? I asked, my voice shaking with rage. A few months, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. A few months. Months of lies, months of deceit, months of betrayal. I felt like everything I had believed in, everything I had worked for had been a lie. I don't understand, Bronwyn, I said, my voice cracking with emotion. Why would you do this to me? What did I do wrong? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. It's not you, Leif, she said. It's me. I've been feeling restless, like I'm missing out on something, missing out on something. Was that it? Was our 15-year marriage, our life together, not enough for her? She needed to experience something else, someone else. So you decided to have an affair, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That's your solution to feeling restless. She didn't answer, her silence speaking volumes. I realized in that moment that I didn't even know this woman anymore. The Bronwyn I had loved and trusted was gone, replaced by a stranger, a liar, a cheat. I want you to leave, I said, my voice cold and firm. I want you out of this house tonight. She looked at me in shock, her eyes widening. Leif, please don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. No, Bronwyn, I said, shaking my head. There's nothing to work through. You broke my trust, you shattered my heart, and I can't forgive you. I don't want you in my life anymore. She pleaded with me, begged me to reconsider, but I stood firm. I had made my decision. I couldn't stay with her, not after what she had done. I helped her pack a bag, my hands trembling as I folded her clothes, the clothes I had bought her, the clothes she had worn to bed with me and with him. As she walked out the door, she turned to me one last time, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Leif, she said. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said, my voice flat. That's what hurts the most. I closed the door behind her, the sound echoing through the empty house. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, tears streaming down my face. My world had been shattered, my heart broken, and I was alone. The next few weeks were a blur. I filed for divorce, contacted a lawyer, and started the process of dividing our assets. Bronwyn moved in with Rhys, their affair now out in the open. I threw myself into my work, burying my emotions in lines of code and endless meetings. I avoided my friends, my family, anyone who might ask me how I was doing. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to relive the pain. One day, my colleague Kieran stopped by my desk. He had heard about the divorce and wanted to offer his support. I'm really sorry, Leif, he said. I know how much you loved Bronwyn. Yeah, well, love isn't always enough, is it? I said, my voice bitter. Kieran hesitated for a moment, then said, Actually, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I looked at him, puzzled. What is it, Bronwyn? She's been having an affair for a lot longer than a few months, he said. It started almost a year ago, a year. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut again. A year of lies, a year of deceit, a year of betrayal. My marriage had been a sham for far longer than I had realized. How do you know? I asked, my voice trembling. I saw them together, he said. At a hotel downtown. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw them with my own eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice filled with anger. I didn't want to get involved, he said. I thought you would find out eventually. I was furious, not just at Bronwyn, but at Kieran as well. He had known about the affair and had kept it from me, allowing me to continue living in a fool's paradise. I stood up and walked away, unable to face him. I needed to be alone to process this new wave of betrayal. As I walked through the office, I saw Rhys walking towards me. He was smiling, his eyes filled with arrogance. He stopped in front of me, blocking my path. Hey, Leif, he said, his voice smug. How are you doing? I stared at him, my fists clenching. I wanted to punch him to wipe that smirk off his face, but I restrained myself. I didn't want to stoop to his level. I'm doing fine, Rhys, I said, my voice cold and controlled. Better than you, I suspect, he chuckled. "Oh, I doubt that," he said. "I'm living the dream. I have Bronwyn and I have your job, my job." What was he talking about? What do you mean, my job? I asked, my voice rising. "Didn't you hear?" he said, his smile widening. "I got promoted. I'm your new boss." I stared at him in disbelief. He had not only stolen my wife, but he had also stolen my career. The betrayal was complete. I felt a surge of anger, so intense that I could barely contain it. I wanted to lash out, to scream, to destroy everything in my path. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I took a deep breath and said, "Congratulations, Rhys. You've won. You've taken everything from me, that's right," he said, his eyes filled with triumph. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, his laughter echoing behind me. I knew I couldn't stay at that company, not with him as my boss, not with the constant reminder of Bronwyn's betrayal. I quit my job that day, walking out without a word to anyone. I didn't have a plan, didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I spent the next few weeks searching for a new job, but it was difficult. The tech industry was competitive and I was starting from scratch. I was running out of money, my savings dwindling with each passing day. One evening I received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered it. "Hello," I said. "Leif, it's Kira," the voice on the other end said. "I need to talk to you, Kira." What did she want? I hadn't spoken to her since the divorce. "What is it, Kira?" I asked, my voice wary. "It's about Bronwyn," she said. "She's in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "Rhys," she said. "He's been abusing her, physically and emotionally." I felt a pang of guilt, despite everything that had happened. I didn't want Bronwyn to be hurt, even if she had betrayed me. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I want you to help her," she said. "She needs to get out of there, but she's afraid." I hesitated. Did I really want to get involved? Did I want to help the woman who had destroyed my life? But then I thought about Bronwyn, about the woman I had loved, about the good times we had shared. I couldn't just abandon her, not when she was in trouble. "Okay, Kira," I said. "I'll help her." I met with Kira the next day and she told me everything. Rhys had been controlling and manipulative from the start, isolating Bronwyn from her friends and family. He had become increasingly violent, both verbally and physically. Bronwyn was trapped, afraid to leave, afraid of what he might do. She had no money, no job, and nowhere to go. I knew I had to help her, but I also knew I couldn't do it alone. I reached out to some of Bronwyn's friends, and together we devised a plan. We arranged for Bronwyn to leave Rhys while he was at work. We found her a safe place to stay, and we helped her find a lawyer to file for a restraining order. It wasn't easy. Rhys was furious when he found out, and he threatened us all. But we stood our ground, determined to protect Bronwyn from his abuse. Finally, after months of legal battles and emotional turmoil, Bronwyn was free. She had a new life, a new job, and a new sense of hope. I didn't stay in contact with her. I knew that we could never be friends, not after everything that had happened. But I was glad that she was safe, that she had escaped from Rhys's clutches. As for Rhys, his career imploded when his abusive behavior came to light. He was fired from his job and ostracized by his colleagues. He lost everything, just as he had taken everything from me. I eventually found a new job, a better job, at a company that valued my skills and my experience. I moved on with my life, stronger and wiser than before. I learned that love isn't always enough, that trust can be broken, and that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. But I also learned that I am resilient, that I can survive even the most devastating heartbreak, and that I am capable of finding happiness again. Years later, I ran into Kira at a coffee shop. We talked for a while, catching up on each other's lives. She told me that Bronwyn was doing well, that she had found a new partner, a kind and supportive man who loved her for who she was. I smiled, genuinely happy for her. I had forgiven Bronwyn not for her sake but for my own. I had let go of the anger, the resentment, the pain. I had moved on and I was finally at peace. As I walked away from the coffee shop, I realized that I had learned a valuable lesson. Betrayal can be devastating, but it doesn't have to define you. You can survive it, you can learn from it, and you can emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply moving on and finding your own happiness.